so much we could say about this, and we only have an hour. So, Kat, do you want to start?
I'm Kat, also known as Nynaeve's wifey over on Twitter. I am also a quarter of the Queers of Time podcast, talking about all things queer, all things Wheel of Time, and sometimes things not Wheel of Time, and sometimes not super queer, but also yes. Yeah.
Hey, I'm Delusions of Grundle. I've been reading the series for about 25 years. My opinion on feminism has changed significantly in that time as my internalized misogyny has left my body. I am a co-host of a podcast called Feather and Mountain Podcast. We record like once a year. So maybe listen, maybe don't.
It's with her dad, which is great.
It's with my dad because I need a man to guide me in the conversation. No, can't go unchaperoned in this day and age.
Totally inappropriate. Hello, everyone. I'm Jess, your Emily Seat from Tar Valon After Dark and a neglected YouTube channel. And hi. I might be a little hungover. I can neither confirm nor deny.
I'm Allie. I am one half of the Wheel Takes podcast, a first-time reader podcast that is on Knife of Dreams. I'm the first-time reader. However, I've really hyper-fixated on the Wheel of Time, and it's all I think about and talk about. And my husband, Gus, is the other half. He has read all of the books. And I also am a screenwriter, most recently for a Nickelodeon show. And some stuff I can't talk about.
Frickin' NDAs.
Frickin' NDAs. And I also invented the Grinwell Cup on Twitter, which is a March Madness bracket.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Land won this year.
Yes, he
A
should.
man?
A man.
The first man to win the Grinwell Cup.
Finally, some male representation.
Thank God, really.
Finally, someone's thinking about the men.
Finally. So it's a March Madness bracket that definitively ranks the hottest character in the Wheel of Time. Each year they ascend to the heroes of the horny and are ineligible for future years. So it's been fun. And that's me.
Yeah, so in terms of spoiler levels, not anything beyond what Ali has reached, because I don't want to get murdered by the end
Literally,
of the panel.
if any of you spoil Allie, we will kill you. You will never leave this room.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's that.
I'm on Knife of Dreams. For those of you who are wondering, I'm on Knife of Dreams. Wait, what's the spoiler? Is the spoiler level up to just where I'm at, and then we can talk about whatever we want? Or
Let's do that.
Okay,
Yeah,
sweet.
I think
Is there anyone here who hasn't read up to Knife of Dreams?
Thank God. Oh, nope.
We got
okay.
one.
What are
Okay.
we- No, you
That's
can
okay. That's okay. Where
No,
are we
no,
at?
no.
Where are we at?
Where are you at?
I just read the first book. I don't want to.
No. You can stay. As long as you don't mind spoilers.
Spoilers.
There
If
might
you're
be
anything
spoilers.
like me, you won't
If
remember.
you don't
Yes.
mind that we're going to be talking about things past where you're at,
Yes.
a lot of it will be words that you'll forget anyway. I promise.
100%. There will be so many words, and you'll be like, okay.
Yeah. So
Cool.
speaking very vaguely, but Egwene, where I'm at, the Golden Crane rides for Time and Gaiden. I just did that, and just did Egwene's role, turning the tower against Honey and the Tea, turning the tower against Elida, and then walking into the room with full of novices, and they all stand for her. And so that's where I'm at
Nice.
for reference.
Great.
Love it.
Excellent.
So to get us started on this panel, I was thinking about a quote that Jordan had about the world he tried to create with the Wheel of Time, because the description of the panel mentioned a lot of matriarchal country in the Wheel of Time, which is not exactly true nor the intention of Jordan. So his quote was, no, in most of these societies, formatting is the obvious exception. I did not and do not view them as matriarchal. I attempted to design societies that were as near gender balanced as to rights, responsibilities, and powers as I could manage. It doesn't all work perfectly. I'm cutting part of the quote because there's a big similarities about belly button and whatever. You could read that. The real surprise to me was that while I was designing these gender balanced societies, people were seeing matriarchies. And there's a few things interesting there. There's all the the readers are kind of perceiving the world, but there's also this intention of having a balanced world, which is nice, but I'm not entirely sure that was successful. So is there anyone who wants to get us started on there?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of gender balance, Lesbian Nerdy isn't here. She has a great point on this, and something that we'll certainly touch on in the deeper discussion. It's not gender balanced. If it was, jobs that are typically held by women would be equally held by both sexes. The fact that women still have to choose between home and career in the series is
Maidens of the Spear.
And Wisdoms and Aes Sedai. The fact that it's not Maidens of the Spear, who, if they give birth, they either have to give the child away or step back from the spear, whereas men just, I don't know, can dick around without consequence, is telling, right? Like, that's not gender. That's not gender balance. That's not equal sharing of household responsibilities. A Wisdom can't have a family because who would take care of the children? It's something I can see that, an effort was made. But in my mind, especially with what was going on in the 90s with really excellent female writers out there, an effort was made, but it was an effort by a man, and it fell short of the mark. It is nice to hear that Robert Jordan recognized that it's not matriarchal societies. It is something that, I don't know if you've heard the discourse in the fandom, there's a lot of suggestions that it is a matriarchy.
Every time I post a TikTok, someone tells me it's a matriarchy, and I've developed an eye twitch about it.
It's certainly a situation that I'm glad we're having this discussion now in 2024. I can tell you, when I first got on the book forums in 2000, it was a very, very different conversation that was happening about matriarchies. And I mean, even with the suggestion of gender balance, and I'll toss the reins over to Jess here, because I know we've got a lot of opinions about this. Women consistently and repeatedly in the series lose power. That's done, as we see, with losing physical power, Suan. That's done through degradation. That's done to their power being second to a man. That's done by being chained to a man. These are repeated
done
occurrences.
by a man spanking a woman.
Yes.
A lot. There's a few of those.
The humbling in the ways is a big one. Even relationships, there is that power. There is that power dichotomy that, when you read this as through the lens of the female gaze, you definitely recognize that this is not relationships of equals, and that takes us really to the digmatization of women in the series.
Which you throw over to me, and I need to review the notes very quickly. So,
because we came with receipts.
We did.
And
There's like 6 pages of notes in the doc.
So many notes.
Most of them done by Allie. So thanks for doing all the work on this.
I got the document, and then I blacked out, and my ADHD took over my body, and I remember James watching me fill out the document because I kept having these ideas, and James kept going, "Can you finish a thought on this document?"
And it's a Google Doc, so of course her name was like Anonymous Raccoon or something. Absolutely rabid.
But somehow they knew Anonymous Raccoon was me. Like, I don't know how they knew, but they did.
Yeah, we did. Well, and I feel like one of the reasons that people immediately jump to the conclusion that it's a matriarchy, despite the fact that he tried to write it in a gender balanced way and it wasn't, is because we are so absolutely accustomed and conditioned to seeing men in positions of power that the idea of seeing women in powerful roles, even though they're very imperfect, just automatically women have power. It's a matriarchy, and it's like, Can you not, please? For like a second.
Barrelane's boobies makes it a matriarch.
You heard it here, folks.
I think-
Movies makes it a matriarchy.
Yeah, and
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's very funny to hear that about the books because we also see those comments about the show. The show is still not a matriarchy, by the way.
Mhm.
Like,
so talking about the dickmatization is basically throughout the series, what we see are these women who are intelligent and powerful and resourceful, and then a man gets involved and it just goes right straight to hell. You know, a perfect example is when Egwene is in the tower and is working on like getting everyone behind her as Amerlin, and then Gawain saves her. Does he listen to what she wants? Was that too far? I don't know what happens in any of the books. But
I
anyway,
think it's too far.
Repeatedly throughout the series, and you have seen this.
I didn't hear it.
You cheated here. Anything.
I honestly was thinking about my next point, and I honestly did not hear what you said. I was thinking about men, so keep going.
That's what I was thinking about.
We're always thinking about men.
Literally,
Oh,
yes.
ADHD saves the day again.
Yeah. Woo, thank you. Yeah, honestly, I don't know what happens in what order. You're like, oh, Knife of Dreams. I don't know
No
what
worries.
happens in Knife
Keep
of
going
Dreams.
with your.
But anyway,
I mean, if you
I'll
want to
point
jump
my
to the
ears,
other
finish the
Amerlin and
point.
talk about Swan and Gareth
We
Bryn.
can talk. Yes.
okay, we can talk about
Swan.
Swan and Gareth Bryn.
Mhm.
So, and I mean, Gawain
some of it is
repeatedly,
still in less
like
late books.
just he oversteps constantly, is not listening to what she wants, what she says, whatever. And then Swan, incredibly powerful, even after she's still she is smart and she is resourceful, and then she gets together with Gareth Bryn and
Gets
it's
to
like
do his laundry.
She gets to do his
She gets to
laundry.
do his
What a
laundry.
privilege, right?
Excuse me. She also gets to polish his boots.
so yeah, it's just
and gets
it's
spanked occasionally. Like,
which
come on.
you know, ooh, fun.
Which, I mean,
If that's your thing, that's great. But
Consensually.
yeah, it's the presence of a man just it makes the women smaller, and
yeah.
it's not cool.
You want to
I-
touch on Nynaeve and Lan?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, just to say something a little bit positive, I would say that Nynaeve's arc throughout the series, I think, is one of the most well done, generally speaking,
Mhm.
until you get sort of to that middle half section. And then once she gets married,
Dickmatized.
things, it's all of a sudden it's Nynaeve and Lan. And even with, I know the will he ride alone moment is iconic.
I was going to say,
I get it.
let's remember the Will He Ride Alone.
Yes.
Since I just read it.
It's great. It's iconic. Is it Nynaeve's best moment? Because it always feels like that's the moment that people remember about Nynaeve, and it's one of the moments that is directly connected to Lan. Nynaeve has so many other incredible moments. I mean, the sequence with her battling Moghedien is literally my favorite sequence.
She threw a plate at her. It was
Yes.
amazing.
It was great. They were staring at each other just intensely. It was great. But the Will He Ride Alone one is the one that sticks in people's mind, and it's not to say that it's not an incredible and sort of encouraging and iconic moment. But is it Nynaeve's best moment?
And I mean, even before that, we speak about the cleansing, and in that, what's Nynaeve's point of view? What's Nynaeve's purpose except to be a vessel for a man?
Yeah.
She is the most talented healer in this generation, and her purpose is simply to exist effectively as a sangreal for Rand, and her voice in that, her perspective in that, is silenced. So it's like Nynaeve is incredible. She's an amazing character. She's someone I loathed as a child, and then swiftly recognized that it's because I am her. and also,
I think there's a psychological study potentially for
potentially
like
that's
which
coming out.
Two Rivers kid you hate the most is the one that you are the most like, for sure,
Oh,
especially at the
yes.
beginning.
Yes.
Because I am that coffin, but I want to like smack him.
The internal loathing is
Yeah.
just so strong and
It's something to
powerful.
talk to the therapist about on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but continue.
No,
Sorry.
no, go. I mean, well, like with Nynaeve, it's just really frustrating because we do get this. We can talk about men. We can talk about basically when a man comes in and the goal is met. The goal is marriage. The goal is union with a man. The goal is partnership. More gays sexually traumatized, not once but twice. Ravine followed immediately by Valda, and then what happens? Oh, Talonvor enters the chat, and it's just like immediate shipping. Like all this trauma, don't worry, suppressed to success. Here's a man; he shall cure you on your journey, and
He will
he's
fix
younger. So that's pretty cool.
Progress.
Progress.
Can we talk? Can I talk about
Yes.
men?
Yes.
Talk about
Please.
men.
Here's the thing. I just read like two Nynaeve and a Gawain moment that to me were like such. Can I swear on this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Such fuck yes moments. So it's interesting because I think when Robert Jordan shines, he shines so hard, and that's why some of the moments where there's a little to be desired hit so hard because he's so capable, right? You know that he has these moments, and with Egwene, that moment in the tower is so badass. You do have to bloom, ignore the fact that she's getting spanked on the rug.
Yeah.
Because the spanking is a lot, y'all. Like, let's just be honest about it. The spanking's a lot.
It's a lot.
There's
like
a lot
just
to unpack there.
With that alone, we know so much more about Robert Jordan than we need to.
Right. Exactly.
But spanking aside, right? We bird box that. We don't see it. It's an incredible moment that I've just come off of these two incredible moments for these women. Men is a really complicated one for me because when she shows up, she wears pants. Amazing. We love. She throws knives. Oh, amazing. We love that. She doesn't, she could see the future. That's so Raven, and that's amazing. And we love her right off the bat. And there's nothing wrong with a woman discovering her femininity. There's nothing wrong with the makeover plotline in itself. But for me, the makeover plotline has to come from, much like in my favorite movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, has to come from them wanting to pursue that and that being an internal journey that they're going on. And what troubles me frequently about men, and I think why people have such a visceral reaction to men in some ways in the fandom, is that a lot of her plots and a lot of her choices in terms of the makeover that she gets, and yes, she starts a pants revolution, and we love that for her, style icon, but becomes about what Rand prefers, right? And Rand often thinks about how he prefers men in skirts, right? And men often complains in her head about wearing what she's wearing, but is wanting to impress Rand. And then also, let's just talk really quickly about it. The POV of somebody else in those council meetings watching men grind on Rand.
Oh my God.
I mean, let's be real about that. She's what, 25? So her brain is fully developed. We are too old to be grinding on people in council meetings. I'm just saying,
that's not the way we handle our business.
Yeah, that's not the way we handle our business, especially because Rand repeatedly tells her not to.
That's not the equality we're searching for.
No.
There are
Embracing the
frequently
lack of consent.
moments, if we're going to talk about men, because we love them, and balanced world and all that, there are frequently moments where men refuse a woman's sexual advances and it is put upon them anyway, and that is perceived as funny. And when we're talking about feminism, we're also talking about intersectionality.
Absolutely.
Right? We're talking about making sure that because the patriarchy and toxic masculinity affect everyone. And one of the ways that affects men, right, is they are taught that women cannot sexually assault them. And let's make no mistake, what Min was doing to Rand after he said no was sexual assault of Rand, played for laughs.
It's a consent issue.
It was a consent issue. And so I think that it's kind of the twofold. One, it's that men, and so many of them, engage in some pretty problematic behavior, especially toward Rand, but also the idea that we had this one tomboy representation, right, that we loved. And she was a strong, independent woman, right, and doesn't necessarily have to not need a man, right? I'm married, love my husband, couldn't imagine life without him. But, you know, to see her become a lesser version of herself in order to make him happy is a journey that I know every single person on this panel has experienced because we've talked about it, not to get too deep. But, you know, that feeling of pressure that like, oh, if I don't conform to what some man that shows up in my life wants, I will be less valuable.
Right.
Right. And so I think that is unfortunately, unintentionally, the message of that arc is validating that experience. And so while I love Min as a character, and I think her caretaking of Rand is really admirable, I've had people talk to me about how it reminded them of caretaking for a loved one that was very sick, things like that, which, you know, obviously a woman in a caretaking position, complicated, but is a reality for a lot of women. And so I love that as a representation, but I think, you know, she for me is a complicated character. A lot of them are complicated characters.
Yeah. And I mean, I think ultimately stigmatization, I say it because it's catchy, but it really is just women's identity being lost and being subsumed by the male plot or the male wants and needs of their partner. Min in particular, hurt because she started out just doing what she wanted. And I've had conversations with men who have told me that she didn't really have a career before, that she didn't know what she was doing. She was lost in life, and Rand gave her purpose. And the rage that I feel is it knows no bounds, truly, because if she wanted to be in the stables with the horses, that was a choice. That was what she wanted. And then to suggest that her real purpose was to serve a man, and like, that gave her life direction, even though it wasn't a conscious choice, is something that does stick with me. I'm hoping that a lot more people are recognizing that loss in these characters that we've talked about, Suan, Morgaze.
But touching. Can I say one really positive thing, though?
I actually have something to
go first, then I go. Yes.
Okay. So because this discussion made me think about whether we had a reverse situation with men, and I was thinking about Beldomen and Egeanin.
I love them so much.
They're great.
Do you think it's a similar situation for the two of them, or is it a bit more balanced compared to? Because Beldomen does give up a lot for Egeanin.
Yeah,
but she's also lost everything.
I think they're. It's funny. I think they're one of the better balanced relationships in this series, and they're both sort of, you know, they're not part of the main cast. They're not part of the main character sort of core group, but especially Egeanin, she has an incredible arc. It's so cool to see her go from, you know, and it's kind of heartbreaking to see her go through, you know, the loss of her culture and realizing like, oh.
Complete deconstruction.
Yes, like that is a difficult thing to do. And
are we the bad guys?
Yeah, exactly. And as someone who's come from a very conservative religious background, I can attest to the fact that deconstructing that is difficult and sometimes feels impossible. But she did it.
And I think I don't think it's the equivalent, because Beldomen isn't giving up everything for her. They're kind of giving up everything for each other and really building this new journey together as equals. And it's a beautiful relationship to watch as they take on the world together, as they both, it is a give and take. It is a very it's a very balanced relationship, and they lean on each other and they support each other. It's one of my favorites, as you mentioned.
Yeah, it's an excellent example of somebody supporting their partner and not making it all about themselves, because Beldomen doesn't make it about him. It doesn't make him, he doesn't make it about what he's changing, what he's losing, whatever. He's like ride or die for his girlfriend, man. He's like, I am here for you, and I know that you're going through some shit, and like, I'm going to take care of you.
We got this.
We got this.
Exactly.
And, like, that's exactly what it should be like.
Yeah.
I also, when we were talking about Min and the makeover plot line, there's a different glow up plot line that I really want to point to, because I freaking love everything so far. right, so far, that they're doing with Liana.
Yeah.
Because to me, that is that is what I'm looking for. If we're going to do a makeover plot line, she's doing that for her.
Yes.
She is having a full sexual liberation
Love
for
it.
her. And that we love for her. Because
She is
that
rediscovering
is
her
Yes.
roots.
Yes, that is her coming back to her culture that was probably stripped away from her quite a bit
Absolutely.
as she's entering the tower. I mean, there's a whole other conversation to be had about that and the problems with that. Not that is a Robert Jordan problem. That is a tower institution.
Oh, 100%.
problem. Yeah, I'm not blaming Robert Jordan for that one. That's a tower problem. But I feel, and there's many. I do a whole panel on how the tower makes no sense from an organizational perspective. I feel like, for me, Liana's plotline is like that perfection. She's found her own purpose and what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And, she's serving Egwene, but she's rebranding herself.
Yeah.
She has
And
complete autonomy over her own sexuality
Yes.
and her own choices.
Yes, and
Yes.
I
Love
love
that for her
that
so
much.
so much
Yeah.
because I'm like, this is what the journey I would have wanted. If Min wants to discover like a different side of her femininity, amazing. We love that. Like, there's nothing wrong with like gender expression across the board, right? It's why. The why is always really important. So yeah, I feel like when we're looking at a glow up autonomy, Liana is perfection
Oh, yeah.
so far.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Sometimes things happen, but but so far, can we also talk about the thing that I always come back to a little bit? Why does Lady Gandalf need a bodyguard?
I was about to jump on so that, yeah.
I mean, because everyone needs a man, right? Right?
Even the all powerful women need
Yeah.
a man companion. I mean, and there's always, it feels like there's a lot of like, and this is maybe his attempt at the balance thing. Let's like be fair about that for a second. That's maybe his attempt at the balance thing, wanting to have male and female counterparts.
Right.
But then when we're always told that it's a matriarchy, I think that's where my eye twitch comes from. So, and the TMJ.
Just so much teeth.
Shout out to mouth guards. Anyway, but I think for me, it's like there's always this like male counterpart that's present that the kind
But they
of
have to
wrinkles.
turn and lean
Like,
on.
the
that
women's
is
circle
absent.
needs the men's square, as I call it, but it's the village council, but I call it the men's square. Like, I the Panarch needs the king.
Mordace needs Tom and then needs Gareth Bryn.
Yeah, it's always kind of like, even when we see these women in power, and that's not to say they can't need people.
Of course not.
And that's not to say that men can't be a part of their plots. But it's interesting to me that as we get so many different representations of women, right, which shout out again to Robert Jordan, his POV
Yes.
writing is unparalleled. It's like annoyingly good as another writer. But also, the fact that he included so many women and so many different kinds of women. But I think the thing that always kind of I come back to that I think was a little bit is always a little bit off to me is, that fact that there is a man always needing to be present. Whereas I don't see a lot of time, Perrin is an exception,
Yes.
but then we'll get into some weaponized incompetence stuff there. But I think I don't see that as much with like Rodella Giralda so far. As an example,
He
of
has a
somebody
wife,
with a lot of power.
maybe.
Where is she? We don't know.
You don't know.
But yeah, and then with Perrin, but I love Fail's parents' relationship, other than the interpretation that Fail has about what works about their relationship, which, in my opinion, is probably wrong in her brain. Because
She is
reminds
16.
me
She's an idiot.
of
Yeah,
Morticia
well.
and Gomez Adams. Like, I love a man who unapologetically adores his wife, and I
Yes.
love a woman who will just break a chair over somebody's head if they're trying to stab her. Amazing, no notes. But Fail, I think, missed the understanding of what makes that relationship work, and I think, unfortunately, I mean, the Battle of the Two Rivers, all that stuff that she did for him, and all that stuff with the women's circle coming to the rescue, that was all a big fuck yeah moment for me.
Oh, yeah.
But the conclusion of that, and Perrin needed to backslide a bit with his character development because he realized he had more books. So I understand that, and I'll be fair about that. But Fael ends up having to really like take over all of his responsibilities over the two rivers because he doesn't want to accept them, and kind of like does that job poorly. So she has to step forward. And I'm like, that is weaponized incompetence 101.
Yeah.
And so I love Perrin. I love.
Do we?
I do. Most of the time, I do. But we do have multiple slander hours about Perrin. This being one of them. That he leaves Fael kind of in the lurch there and having her take over all of those responsibilities.
Yeah,
was uncomfy for
yeah, and it's sort of like he is able to so confidently just ditch it all because he knows that she's going to pick up the slack.
Yeah.
And it isn't like he's not acting like a freaking adult and being like, okay, I don't want to do this. I don't want this responsibility, but the responsibility is mine. And so I have to take it. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, I'm going to be a big fucking baby and somebody else can do it. And my wife can do it. And, you know, I want to stab him in the
But
face.
why would he ask her and have a rational
Well, yeah, why would they have a
between
rational
equals
conversation
when
about
he
it?
can just
Rational
be really
conversations in my wheel of time? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
That's not what we do here.
Good communication. Somebody said this on a panel the other day. Good communication means nothing good happens. Like nothing interesting happens. It kills writing.
That's true.
I will say, here's the thing. I have a novelist friend, Bree, and I was talking to her about writing not that long ago and how stressful it is because, you know, what you write inevitably becomes the time capsule of where you are at the time that you write and where culture is at the time that you write because you're only in, you know, art informs culture, culture informs art.
Yeah.
And where society is. And I live in fear of ever hurting anyone's feelings or ever like writing something that's harmful. And so we were talking about that and the feelings about that. And she said to me, may we build the world in which our work ages poorly. And I think what's interesting to me when we talk about Robert Jordan is I think that he partially did that and is why we're able to have this discussion, not in 2000, but in 2024. The world has learned a lot in part because of writers like Robert Jordan who were experimenting and pushing things forward. So I do want to give that credit not just to Robert Jordan, but also all the female writers and people of color who were doing that work as well at that time. But, you know, maybe had more trouble being recognized in the same way.
The 90s, am I right?
The 90s, am I right? What a time. We all lived through it, you know. Maybe some of you didn't, actually, I'm realizing.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah. Oh, my God. And children. But so, yeah, I think I do see what he was attempting to build. And I think what a blessing that we're able to build on those people and what a fun ability to look back and go, I think it is a tragedy in a way that he is not able to right now. So, because I do think he was a very thoughtful person.
I think so.
And his choices were very thoughtful. I would have loved to see in response to how things have shifted and how much we've learned in, you know, the 20 years since then that, or I can't do math right now.
Pretty close
the
to
third
20.
day of Jordan Con. But, you know, however many years it's been, I do wish that we could see what he would do now with the information that we know now and the discussions we've all had. But yeah, so what a gift to be able to look back and nitpick in a loving way. Because we all love these books. I talk about these books for 500 hours. We love these books.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I think it's actually a good transition to something I wanted to ask you all. We've talked a lot about the thing we have issue with. I do want to remember the things that we really like about like feminism in the Wheel of Time. So if you could all find something that
We
you
can
really
find
like.
more than
Oh.
something.
Yeah, but I want everyone to get to say there's something that they really enjoy. Who wants to get this?
Well, I think one of my favorite notes that Allie made on this was men did original sin. Thank you, Robert, for curing my religious trauma with this one.
I'm also a deconstruction girly, you know?
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to add for that. My brain is not.
I mean,
so.
what I'll say is this: the handled delusions of Grendel comes from a place of great respect and love. I think the way that Robert wrote female villains was second to none. Our girls are the most effective out there on the playing field. The plans on plans on plans that Grendel has, she cannot be outsmarted. She cannot be outwitted. I'm not going to talk about what happens later in this series, but trust me, I have thoughts on a fourth age. She is someone who has complete control. She weaponizes her body against people because of assumptions. She is a walking definition of a subversion of power, and I love it. She wants to be underestimated. She wants people to dismiss her, and she takes everyone's assumptions, misogynistic assumptions, and flips it on its head, and she becomes someone to be reckoned with in a real way. Semirog just unapologetically being the scariest person in the series. We have that for her. She is terrifying. We only get one real clip to where Allie is of that moment. I think it's in Lord of Chaos where she's torturing the warder and the Aes Sedai. It's incredible. It is incredible to just. Jim gave women this absolute power and dominion that we don't see to where Allie is. We don't see with Ravine. We hear about the compulsion being wielded as a hammer. We hear about the sexual trauma, but we don't actually see what he does. When we come onto the scene, he's already there in the back burner. We see Semirog completely in control, and it's beautiful. Maggedion, I'm coming around. Slowly but surely.
I am
Slowly but surely.
Come on.
goth girl.
Exactly. I mean, I read Maggedion through the lens of incompetence, and I should do better. Lanfear, it took years. It took the show. I'm coming around because
She
she's
literally ripped a man's skin off.
She's so easy to dismiss as the crazy ex-girlfriend, and that's something I hate when I read her. So I rebelled against Lanfear because so many men were like, she's amazing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I cannot handle this level of fervor that Lanfear and men get from like a certain demographic because it felt like the discourse was all about their thoughts on men, and Lanfear is so much more than that, and I am coming to appreciate that. It has taken over 2 decades of work to get to that reading. Masana as well. Like I know we've got a Masana stan, and I know that people think that her reason for turning to the shadow is one of the funniest, which is that she didn't get tenure.
Yeah.
I love that.
Relatable.
Which,
honestly,
next to Asmodean, that is my favorite reason
Incredible.
for going to the shadow. And like Grendel just having and I also love that women turn to the shadow, turn to power because they're like, the world sucks. Whereas all the men's reasons, except Asmodean, are about Rand and like Luz Theron, I should say. So it is wonderful. Like I as I got more into this series, the women, the chosen, it's still who I come back to in these books because I think we don't get the cat fighting. Like we have this trio of Demon Dread, Semirog, and Masana who have just been like bro down, ho down for centuries. Like they're so cool, and they just like have this triangle of trust, and no one can broach it. And like, how amazing and powerful is that? Of just like, to me, I'm like, that's equality.
Yeah.
Like they lean on each other, they support each other, and they trust each other even within the depths of the shadow. So yeah, I don't think he can do a lot wrong with the women who have chosen to go to the shadow, and that includes Millie Skane.
oh my God.
Like I love the power that he gives them because it is unapologetic, whereas some of our female heroines, it's apologetic. It's apologetic power. And Egwene, who is ambitious, I mean, at least within the discourse of the fandom, that's something to be like. It's a negative I've heard, right? It's a lot of things like she's bossy. One thing I've heard about Egwene, she's a bad friend. Because we all know how amazing Rand is as a friend.
Perrin is such a shitty friend. I love Perrin, but Perrin is such a shitty friend. He doesn't know that Gaul has a crush on Chiad.
Yes.
Which, how can you not clock that, my dude?
Right?
We always say that Perrin is like that John Mulaney sketch about Ice-T on Law and Order, where it's like every day is his first day on the force.
That's exactly
Every time Perrin is always the proxy of like, you're telling me that the Aes Sedai can channel? And you're like, yeah, Perrin, it's the apocalypse.
Yes.
Like,
Please get with it, my dude.
Kind of get with the program. But
Welcome, buddy.
I feel like, Perrin, and then Gaul will be like telling Perrin these problems, and then Perrin will go like, but my problem though, and listen, his problem is a big problem, but he does not listen to
And when you hear critiques about Perrin, of which there are so many, it's never
I love
about
him.
what a bad friend he is. Whereas Egwene, she's a bad friend. She's a bad friend to Nynaeve and Elaine because she wants to go off and like pursue her ambition. She wants to be in a position of power because she thinks she's capable enough. She's also the one who will read, react, respond, and learn from different cultures. And she constantly has to be doing that in sharp contrast to Rand, who just wants everyone to conform to the way that he sees society. So it's interesting. I think the discourse within the fandom that is such a strong reflection of our society, especially as it comes to our female heroines, because bad women just get to be bad and get to have that power. And there's no explanation or justification as to why. There's no apology. And Nynaeve is constantly apologizing. Elaine is constantly apologizing.
Elaine, out of all of them, is the one who shouldn't be apologizing at all.
Not to mention,
She's a fucking princess,
Exactly.
man.
Not to mention, the women have to earn their power, right? Elaine has to earn her throne.
Yeah.
Egwene
Right.
has to earn being on Merlin's seat. Spoilers, I'm so sorry, but they've got to earn it. Whereas the men often have the power handed to them, and they're like, I don't
Right.
want it. And you're like, oh my God, these other women are working.
They want it, give it to them.
And like
Yes.
parents, like
They're
I
gonna
want
do
to
a-
be here. Parent goes to the Shantian, and it's like, you can have my hometown if you want. He goes into this brain
Why are you
trust.
so fucking...
I friggin' love Perrin because Fael's gonna come back and like paddle his ass, I'm sure, because he goes to the Shantian, this brain trust, this Harvard Business School graduate. He goes to the Shantian. And immediately, without them negotiating at all, just goes for the highest thing and is like, I'll give you Manetheren. And they're like,
Yeah.
we didn't know it existed.
Why would we want that?
But we'll take
What
it.
is Manetheren? And Gus is trying to tell me, like, it's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, it is literally the hub for women channelers to be born. What are you talking about? He just handed it over to the Shantian for, like, some tea. What are you And that's like, I'm no hero, and the band's like, we'll follow you anyway. Meanwhile, those women are in the trenches, right? Digging for an ounce of power. And then everybody's like, they're ambitious.
What do you mean Elaine's not
wants
just
the
going to
world
accept the
saved?
throne from Rand?
Someone's got to do the work. Like,
Exactly.
oh my God.
Well, and
anyway,
like,
we're talking about good things, though.
Yeah, can you get your good things so that Cat can also get theirs?
I will-
Cat good.
I will say some good things. The amount of different types of women that we get to see throughout the series is incredible, quite frankly. And the amount of POVs that we get from women is incredible. And there's such a wide variety of them. One of my favorite characters, no joke, is Elida. She is a mess. She is a hot mess. She is all over the place. And
You can fix her.
Yes, I can fix her though. She is wrong in the worst possible ways, and somehow also kind of right sometimes, but in the wrong way. But we get to see her in that being wrong. A human being. What a concept. And we get to see, like Berlin also is someone who, like people have a lot of opinions on, but I am glad that someone like Berlin exists, because it shows that women are not just one thing.
Oh,
They're not just like this one sort of cutout.
In this essay, I will.
Oh yes, I get it's. But
We only
yeah,
have 14 minutes left. I'm sorry, Ali. We don't have the time.
I know. We don't have the time.
I know.
We go into extensive detail on Wheel Takes.
So if you want to keep going,
Oh, don't throw that into the universe.
How dare you, sir? People have flights to
I have a flight, my dude.
you all have to leave immediately.
I kind of wanted to jump on Kat's point because, like, as a result from having so many women, we get a TV show with so many actresses, and just
older actresses.
older.
ladies.
I don't think I've ever seen a
Not
TV
old,
show
older.
with that many,
Yeah.
like, women in general, but of all type. Or it's a huge diversity of actresses, and I think even for them, being able to play in such a show must be so rewarding because, yeah, it's the state of Hollywood. Most of the time you're on the set, it's mostly men, and that's it. And especially I work in tech. There's one woman in my team, and that's it. And just being able to see all of those women that gets to interact with each other and have apparently a great time filming The Wheel of Time. It's amazing. It's mind blowing. And whenever I see new casting news, I'm just so optimistic about the show.
So many women.
Yeah.
It's just like woman.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to
So
jump
cool.
a little bit too on Kat's point about Elida, I think that the misunderstanding about like what feminism is and what having strong female characters is they think that they have to introduce these like Pollyannas who make no mistakes, right?
Yes.
They like have to be hyper masculinized, or they have to be, I don't need no man, whatever. They think that it's this box of what a strong female character is, and that's actually the opposite direction of where we want to go. We're not wanting to be like these cardboard cutouts. What we're asking for strong female characters is whole people.
Mhm.
Yes.
Flawed people who make mistakes, people who have foibles, but also who are in control of their narrative, right? Who like have influence on the narrative, right? Beyond being a vessel for someone else.
Yeah.
And I think that like Elida is a great example of that. Elida's doing it for her.
Oh yeah.
Oh, she
Doing
is.
that for her.
She's
And
doing
she's
everything
real,
wrong.
She's real
for
bad
her.
at it, but she's doing it
She's-
for her.
Like the competence of the Forsaken. Oh my God, the women Forsaken.
Oh
their
my God.
competence when
Great.
It's all the
Baylor
competence
was not-
went to the Forsaken and none went to Elida.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like let women be bad.
Yeah.
Let them
Let
be
women be
yes.
bad.
Let
But,
them
like,
be messes.
let it be complex.
Yeah.
Let them be whole people. And I think that's a thing that Robert Jordan, for the most part, accomplishes really well,
Yeah.
especially as you said in his villains.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really like is Bear Lane. Along the same lines as Grendel, she absolutely subverts everybody by like looking like she's breasting boobily everywhere. But like, this woman has got shit going on. She is tactical. She is strategic. She's fucking smart.
The
She is
idea love her.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and they should, because she's a good leader. She's looking out for her tiny little nation, and she's using all of the tools at her disposal to do it. And if that means that she's going to, take advantage of, boob goggles, then she's going to do it. She's going to fucking get it done. And I love that it's this woman that, again, people are constantly underestimating
And slut shaming.
and slut shaming,
Yes.
constant slut shaming.
including the women.
And she's still out there and she's getting it done, and she's just like, okay, if that's what you think of me, I'm gonna capitalize on that.
Yeah.
And fuck you.
It's no secret that like Berylane in Grendel and Lyanna, everyone who basically takes expectations and subverts them, or just makes them their own, are like easily my favorites in the series. They're like Robert Jordan knows how to write that well.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased that we have that kind of representation.
And again, she's doing it for herself, and she's doing it for her people. And like, Berylaine's fucking great.
Here's the thing
Oh,
about
also
Berylaine's-
Bird Box Perrin.
Really?
Totally.
Yeah.
Sorry, it
I was
doesn't
like-
happen.
Oh yeah, no, that part sucks.
If you were wondering,
Yes.
my headcanon is it's
I was
like
we
never
would be
it's never been
remiss-
about
yeah,
Perrin.
we would be remiss to not mention
Because we
it.
don't actually get a lot of Perrin from Berylaine's POV.
This
Yeah.
is
Right,
true.
so it's all Perrin sniffing, and
And
that
Perrin's
assumptions
POV sucks.
put on Berylane,
Yeah.
based on his reading of Fael and Berylane, and it's something that like in hindsight, when you were speaking about what would be different, I would love more Berylane POVs. I would love to
And
understand.
I would
that.
love if they did not do the sexual harassment plotline of Perrin because, well,
Bird
Orr
Box.
Yes.
did something very different with it. Because I love Berylane as a character. I hate what she does.
Yes.
I hate everything about
Agreed.
when she is on screen for me. Other than like the fact that I think she's awesome otherwise. I just have to like ignore completely the things that she does to like her. But I do have a headcanon about that.
Please share it.
It's a little inappropriate, but
That's what we do here.
Berylaine's been with like 2 people, right?
Yeah.
And clearly didn't have a good
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah.
which-
Women can't have sex. Also,
No.
Grendel doesn't actually have as much sex
Yeah,
as everyone
of course.
thinks,
No,
and
none of
Min was a
women.
virgin even though she dated older men.
None of the women have sex, but so yeah. But so and that's its own thing. But Berylane, she's been with 2 people. They were like for political reasons. She didn't have a good time. She was walking by Perrin and Fael's door one day. They're probably not very considerate about other people, and I'm just assuming based on who they are as people. And so she overhears that, decides in her head, due to a lack of experience, that Perrin is the only one who can give her that experience. And that is why she's so fixated on him for so long. Because I'm like, this woman could have anyone, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I'm like, and like Perrin's great, but like, I mean, I hear the arguments where people are like, but she felt like she needed to do it for political reasons to get close to Rand. Well, she's still doing it after Rand puts her in charge.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's not just that.
No.
She's already close to Rand, and she's still futzing about with a guy who lost his wife.
She's just out here waiting for someone to find her North Harbor.
I think that's it. I think.
Do you think Perrin could?
I think she thinks Perrin. Well, I think she thinks Perrin is the only one who can find North Harbor, and I get it now. I like not to that extent. Obviously, be chill, don't harass people. But I get the fixation if that's her opinion.
Need directions to North Harbor, NATO.
But so yeah. Anyway, that's my headcanon about Perrin.
We only have a few minutes left, so I guess if there's any audience question, there was also some on the
some-
live stream.
Yeah,
Was there-
there's some.
we can do
streaming
maybe one
questions
audience,
we'll
one
do.
live streams,
Yeah,
and
we'll
alternate.
alternate.
Do the streaming ones first, then I do one at a time.
Okay, we'll do the streaming ones first. So this one is for the entire panel. What changes in the show makes the show more feminist compared to the books?
I mean, older actresses.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, let women age. Let them age. Hollywood has a huge problem when it comes to older actresses. They joke about it where they say 35 is your last fuckable day. And then once you hit 35, the roles immediately shrink. I mean, you're getting calls to go in for mother roles when you're 25.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I mean, it's fucked up. And like,
Yikes.
oftentimes you will see the men grow older, the male actors grow older, and the women who are their counterparts stay the same age. So you'll see those age gaps widening and widening. And, you also see, a lot of women getting who are very talented, getting kind of shut out once they reach a certain age.
Yeah.
So it's important, I think, to have older actresses.
One thing that I had was personally Maureen's and Swan's relationship, because we haven't talked about that, but the pedo friendship thing is on the White Tower is bullshit. Like, it's not, we are not gay until graduations, and older women can have a sexuality too. And I think it's also one thing that I really like about the show.
Yeah.
I think my biggest change from season 2 that really just hammered home the feminism was the fallibility of Moraine. She's not just being put up on a pedestal. She's not just being seen through the male gaze that we get a lot in Eye of the World. And honestly, even up through Fires of Heaven, Moraine is a really fully recognizable human being. She's someone who guards her emotions so carefully, and that's perhaps why we don't see that in the books. But the moment of her in episode 1 in the bath, where she is a wreck, and just the silent tears, like that's when I knew that what the show was doing with these female characters is going to be just as comparable to the arcs that we get to see with the men. It's I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. One of the things that I really like is there is more of a sense of sort of sisterhood. Like the girls are showing up for the girls, and in the books we see so much catfighting and bullshit, and we don't see that happening in the show. And
We see Elaine brewing beer for her girl.
yes,
and
this is
pick her
what
up.
I'm
Let's
saying.
go.
Like, yeah, let's
Making
go.
toilet wine, essentially.
Yeah.
Why do you have to call it like that? Next question.
Next question. Do we want to? Are we good to
Let's
do an
go.
audience question or?
Yeah, let's do
Okay.
one audience. So you in blue, second row, third row? No, it was yeah.
I wanted to see if y'all could give some love to Varen because she's the best woman in the whole series.
Gladly.
Yes,
Love
happily.
Varen is my ADHD queen. She is my representation. I see her and I just am filled with joy. I'm a little scared that she could be Black Aja, and I'll still stand her anyway. I love you. You go off, queen. I bet that she just thought she was getting a free T-shirt, and then she woke up and realized that she was Black Aja. And you know what? I would be tricked the same way.
Yeah. Free
Yeah.
T-shirt.
Varen's a character that has lived in my head rent free since I read the Great Hunt. A certain moment in particular that most of my energy was devoted to that particular line for years. She's steady. I mean, her work in the Aiel camp, as we roll through POD and Winter's Heart.
What's up with that? What is she doing?
She's incredible. She's incredible. And I think it's just wonderful that we have such amazing POV writing with Varen, where she's just a walking enigma, a walking mystery, and someone who plays such a background character who lives constantly in your thoughts, and everything she does is so specific. It's incredible writing.
She's a brown sister. Yeah.
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 Bookish girls get things done.
It's true.
Women, excuse me, bookish women get things done.
I just need to remind you guys to not spoil anything about Baron past night.
No.
What am I missing?
You're missing nothing. Nothing happened. Nothing. Forget about that. Nothing. Don't worry about it.
The fear that just filled my body. I am concerned. Okay.
Let's do another question. Let's move
Okay.
on.
We're gonna do a streaming a question from the stream. This is for the whole panel again. How do the female Forsaken show feminist ideals or not? And I think Delusions, you've kind of talked about this.
You've heard me. I've ranted. Like my girls are showing up hard in a big way. They're flawed. They're capable. Their POVs are some of my favorites. We don't get enough Grendel POVs, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's true.
Watching her mind work is incredible. Watching the Samael plotline with her, the way that she allows herself to be used for a moment in time while always having something else in the works, while never letting someone get close enough to her is she's incredible. She's I can go on for literally years, which I have, about her in particular. No, the female chosen, I think one thing that we've seen in the show that I was not expecting was just how incredible they're making these villains.
Yeah.
Lanfear actually like being given more depth, being given. Didn't Guy Roberts call her the great performance of the second season?
Yes.
Like that much trust being bestowed in Lanfear and her carrying it with such big moments, that the transformation while she's riding the dragon. I mean, hot I thought the books did villains well. I cannot wait. The show made me a Lanfear stan, and that is something that was completely unexpected.
And I would
so
really
welcome.
like to briefly touch on when she's walking through whatever it is, Kyrie, and she's just blowing shit up. Just that was so fucking good.
Which she just blew that guy's head up.
Yes!
Yeah.
Holy
crap.
Yeah.
And like I just love the villain Forsaken, the women Forsaken so much. I mean, frequently Gus and I will jokingly rank them in order of who would most likely win Survivor. Grendel plays that middle game
100%.
so well, and that's a hard game to play. So
Yeah.
I respect the hell out of Grendel.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to talk about the show a little bit, because we talked about Lanfear, performance is amazing, but the reveal of Moghedien at the very end,
I'm so fucking
she
stoked.
is one of my favorite characters in the series, and I'm just so happy that the show seems to be, I mean, what we've seen so far, the show is going to do my girl justice.
Watching
Like,
her play on nightmares,
it's just
holy
so
smokes.
good, and just like she's doing the cat's cradle, it's just
And let's just talk about the fact that, like, the entire season we have established that Lanfear is a stone cold badass, and everyone is terrified of her. And then she walks into the room, and Moghedien is sitting there, and the absolute just stark terror on her face. And you're like, oh shit!
Yeah. She springs a trap and catches Lanfear.
And that's like, again, great change, because for me, I'm like with Moghedien, we don't get to see her actually in her spider capabilities in the books.
Yeah.
And I think it's a disservice to her character.
Agreed.
So that one moment alone, again, totally changed my mind on the Moghedien that I've been reading for years.
Yeah.
And like
So
the way I
good.
trust this writing team is like second to none. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to see her interact with Zoe Robbins.
Oh my
That's
god!
gonna be good. So
Two of my favorite characters interacting. I've been like buzzing since the end of season 2.
On
We need
this,
season 3 immediately post haste.
yeah, if not sooner.
But
On
also
this.
take your time with.
I'm gonna be able to do that. On this, we are past time,
I know.
so we're gonna have to close it off. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to everyone in the panel.
Oh, and if anyone wants a Team Lamp sticker, come on up.
I want one, but I also want to